Okay, so I've got the flyer, and I can probably announce some things that she didn't. There will be food and beverage there. Perfect Zero Champagne, Califino Tequila, Maria Coffee, NanoCraft, 8-Bit Brewing Company will be there, Wines Brewery, El Patron, Lemongrass, Clamatos Miguel, Healthy Hangout, Drive by Level, just to name a few. There will be DJ there. There will be a bunch of things for the kids to do. So if you're not busy on Saturday.
And if after all that you can run.
The run starts in the morning, so the run is early. All of this stuff starts at...
If you survive the run, you can come back and eat and drink.
Yes, right. This is from 10 to 3. So to reiterate what she said that I wasn't really getting to. I'll be there in the morning, and then I'm leaving because I have to be somewhere else at 9 o'clock. But that's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Okay. I've been having a series of discussions with our fire chief and our emergency services coordinator, and talking about conceptually the direction to go relative to our what we're carrying on there, the Disaster Planning Commission. The consensus that the three of us have arrived at, and I'm kind of looking for maybe some head nod consensus from council, that rather than take the route of a full-blown commission, because previous attempts of that haven't really gotten off the ground, and they were either unwieldy or, for whatever reason, not productive. And moving in more in a direction of an advisory committee of stakeholders in the community, obviously people who would have key roles in planning for and responding to and mitigating any kind of a catastrophic disaster. So I think that is in keeping with the direction that I think would be beneficial to the city at large, and in some ways even perhaps looking at not just a city approach, but maybe consider regional impacts as well, because we are indeed in a valley, and something catastrophic that would impact our city would likely impact the valley too, and so mutual aid issues come into play there. So I'd like to see if my colleagues on council are in agreement that an approach of some kind of an advisory committee with decision-making stakeholders represented, and providing some direction on moving forward with updating our disaster plan and our emergency operations plan. We are, by the way, currently in compliance with state and federal regulations, which is important, even though our existing document was last updated and completed and adopted in 2013. Our emergency services coordinator is in the midst of working on updating and compiling current requirements that will result in a much more efficient emergency operations plan than what we have now. And the importance of having it meet the requirements of state and federal, it has to do with reimbursement funding. And so we are in compliance now, and we will remain in compliance with whatever comes forward. But I think that a committee approach, advisory committee, is more desirable than trying to resurrect a commission.
Do you have any comments from council?
I don't have a problem doing that. My question is, do we need to then abolish the resolution on that huge interrelated incestuous committee that we all agreed to back in 2013?
It's actually an ordinance.
It is an
yes,
ordinance.
We would have to repeal that ordinance. And then the council could adopt the commission by ordinance, or you could adopt something by resolution. The only problem when you adopt it by resolution is people tend to lose track of it and can't go to the municipal code and find it easily enough, especially for members of the public, since the municipal code's online and they can look at that. Not all of our resolutions are online.
And we're not recommending a commission, just an advisory committee.
So the ordinance would have to come back and be restated
Or repealed, yes.
or repealed? Okay. Yeah, the way it stands, quite honestly, it's not workable, hasn't been workable, and we need to have something that is workable. Real simple. So, I don't know, I don't know if the chief, if the chief wants to speak to it, but I don't know that just let him be in charge of it, and if he needs to meet with people, he meets with people. It's just, if we add another group of, then we just go down that road again. It's my 2 cents. You can ask him, I guess.
Chief, how do you feel about that?
Oh, did you want to speak?
Yeah, and maybe you can answer this question, Scott. My experience in dealing with disasters in California is that the city plays a role within a county disaster plan. And oftentimes you contract with the county to prepare, prepare our plan and such. And so I'm just curious to see how what you're talking about integrates with whatever the county's master plan is on this.
That's one of the reasons we're in the process, as the Mayor Pro Tem indicated. I'm almost going to do a Rob on this. I'm sorry. We're updating currently our emergency operating plan in compliance with the county. That's a requirement to be in compliance, and they will adopt our plan as part of the overall large picture. I think if I may refer to the question that you brought up, Councilmember Krupa, with regard to the resolution, I believe we rescinded the original disaster committee resolution that we had in place, and I think that was 3 years ago. And, I believe that was, I think, Councilmember Mellon, and that was in response to we had this 25-member board that it was just too big. So I, for a point of clarification, I think that's already been done. The discussions we've been having to Councilmember Myers' request or question, one of the discussions we've been having is not to go back to what we had before. In talking to Kat Henderson, there is some value added with bringing some community stakeholders together, especially in our valley. Smaller group with a focus on outcomes, specific. She could use that assistance, and we can get that input, quick turnaround deliverable on a number of items, including our local hazard mitigation plan and those types of things. But and I was very open to that for the reason that we're not going down the old path that I agree, and thank you for recognizing the impact, because that just becomes too cumbersome. But I think an advisory approach would be helpful. I just don't know how you codify that within the system, but I think it's workable, and it doesn't chain us to the other requirements that with the other system.
And if I just might comment further on that, the objective is to ensure that everybody knows and understands their role and expectations, because when the bell rings and people have to get into the fray, that's not the time to be trying to figure out, well, what am I supposed to be doing? What am I responsible for? So you have to have clear lines of responsibility and understanding of everybody's roles and responsibilities. Now, if we can accomplish that more informally, just by allowing Kat Henderson to lead and facilitate that on behalf of the city, that's fine. Again, I'm focused on results, not so much process. I just want to ensure that we have all of the key stakeholders and partners that are going to be involved in responding and mitigating have input and clear understanding.
And Mayor Pro Tem, I'll close out with this. I think we did talk to Kat this afternoon, and the big question is capacity. And from that standpoint, no issues with that. In fact, she would welcome that assistance and the stakeholder input. So however we frame that up, that'd be very helpful.
So I'm sensing that nobody wants to go with a commission.
For advisory.
Yeah, keep it advisory, but not a formal disaster planning commission.
Is that the desire of the council?
Fine.
Other members?
But I think to do that, I still think it's on the books that the city has a disaster planning commission.
I did
And
too,
that has
but
to be taken care of
The
legally.
chief is right. I'm looking at it right now, and ordinance 1914 was adopted in 2016, which repealed section 26-3 Disaster Planning Commission.
Fantastic. So
It's
that
not on the
part's
books.
done. Very good. Good. So we can do whatever we want.
Thank you, Chief. And, all right, we're off and running. We have direction. Thank you. And,
I have a question. How is it okay to have it with one council member when we talked about something else and it had to be two?
No, I just said, it didn't say that there wasn't going to be
I'm
other
asking.
members on it.
No, this is like the traffic commission and the parks commission. It's it was an established commission. But we're not going to be a commission, so we're making up things as we go right now. No, we already. He said it's not going to be a commission, it's going to be an advisory board. So I'm just making sure we're clear.
well,
Ad hoc committee?
Maybe we should bring back the staff report.
we could do that. What I was looking for was just a general consensus that, number one, council doesn't want to resurrect a formal commission, and my sense was that that's not something that we want to do. And so as an alternative, through the discussions with Fire Chief and the ESC, we were thinking something in the way of an advisory committee that makes sure that we're all-inclusive with stakeholders, so that everybody has
That
input.
means is that like with the people that live in our town?
Stakeholders that would have a role. You've got school district, because oftentimes school sites are used as evacuation centers. You've got Red Cross, you've got Salvation Army, you've got all the major utilities. We have public works, we have police, we have fire. All of those people that in a catastrophic disaster, they're all going to have some role in responding to and mitigating. And if they're going to respond and mitigate, they need to be involved in the planning. So everybody has a stake in, they've got a dog in the fight, so to speak. So that's all we're just trying to do, is make sure that everybody is clear of roles and responsibilities and expectations. Bottom line, the city's in charge, and the city has a responsibility to plan for and mitigate. So
The reason for my questioning is because I have a homeless outreach team, and I was told as a council member, it's weird that you are doing this, and you see what I'm saying? And so, if it's okay for you to do this, then go for it.
well, I undertook the conversations with the fire chief primarily because I had a council liaison assignment to a commission that wasn't really doing anything. And so in an effort to try to figure out what do we want to do with this animal, we had those conversations. And that's why I'm just bringing back to the council the results of our conversation and our dialogue, seeking consensus. I'm not trying to do anything on my own. That's why I brought it up today.
I'm just talking about consistency, and everything is not consistent with the majority and the minority on our council. It's just simple.
So, council, we do have by ordinance already established the position of a director, an assistant director, and deputy director of emergency services. And one of the duties assigned to the director of emergency services is to represent the city in all dealings with public or private agencies on matter pertaining to emergencies as defined in the chapter, which is defined pretty broadly. So you do have authority for the director of emergency services to meet with other stakeholders, if you will. Maybe there isn't need for an additional ordinance or resolution, but you can utilize your existing authority of the director, and if you want to have an ad hoc that works with the director, you can certainly do that. Or the director itself can form the committee if one is needed. Just an option.
Okay.
So is the consensus is you'll bring back what this advisory team will consist of, or are we determining that today?
Well, I think, jump in if you would like,
It's reasonable
Chief
that
Brown, but I
stakeholders-
think perhaps what would be most beneficial is a study session after Kat has had a chance to conclude her amendments and updates of our emergency operations plan, then bring that to council in a study session.
At your pleasure, however you see that. And I think just to reiterate what our city attorney pointed out, the whole intent, I just like to emphasize a very low-key, inclusive advisory group of community input. That's all we're looking for. So that vehicle, whether you decide to formally adopt that, we have that framework in place. It's providing a more inclusive framework for that input. We haven't done a very good job with our faith-based as an example, so we got good networks we're building with that. Our recent experiences with our mobile home parks is another example of that. So it really is, I guess I would respectfully request not, to consider not going down the bureaucratic road. That's what we're really trying to avoid. And I really would ask for your help on that, because I think we got a lot of the pieces in place. We can get to the council's desire of being inclusive, being transparent without being bureaucratic. I think that's possible. And I say that with,
That's the goal.
that's the goal, yes.
Okay, then we look forward to the work study.
Okay. That's it.
As Michael mentioned, the planning commission was canceled. I look forward to the meeting, the League of Cities meeting that works for me that day because it's my Flex Monday. I'll be there for that. Last time I reported on WRCOG and SCAG. Homeless Task Force, we had a great meeting yesterday. We actually had a guest that was from Julie Jeffries, that was from Safe Families for Children. She was a program coordinator for inland and the desert communities. And what they do is they provide host families for children at risk or any family who needs temporary housing. They'll actually make sure the kids are enrolled in the school, the district that they're used to. Anyway, work with the families explicitly to get them through a transitional period. It was extremely it just really, I know there's so many people going out there and doing all these different things, but they're so successful. It appeared that they were so successful at it. And she came out this way because she doesn't really have that community engagement yet in their program. And so the Interfaith Council is going to bring her out as a guest speaker at one of their programs. And I think it would be very beneficial for those people to attend that can. It's kind of weird when you think of anybody opening up their home from some standpoint, but these people are vetted. They're in it for as long or as short as they want. In any event, it's been a very successful program for them. Skate Plaza Task Force. Where's my Chris? There she is. She can give a little update.
Hello again. So Skate Plaza Task Force, yes, we've been kind of in a little bit of a hiatus. We had some changes in our consultant. We're still working with Stantec, but Canton Russell, who is amazing and who did our public outreach meetings with us, the two that we had, has moved on to another company. However, is still working on the project. So we had a little delay because I think that there was some changes in terms of the agreements between Stantec and Canton's new agency. However, tomorrow morning, I'm supposed to receive the first draft of our feasibility study, and we have a conference call scheduled for tomorrow afternoon, so we'll kind of do some initial comments, and then our hope is that within the next 2 to 3 weeks after that, we'll be able to have kind of a face-to-face internal meeting and get everything really dusted off and get it back here either to council or back to the skate park ad hoc committee, depending kind of on what we're looking at.
Well, it'll come to the ad hoc committee only from the standpoint of planning for the presentation to the council.
Sure.
So we're really looking forward to that, and it's, long overdue for a lot of reasons we didn't have any control over.
Right.
So,
and as I shared with you, Mayor, we do have one of my staff members who recently attended a Bureau of Reclamation grant conference, and they've got some park grants, and there are some other park grants that we've flagged that we're already starting to work on now, anticipating the potential for the project.
So there's through the Natural Resources Department, there's a grant available. Actually, I brought it to DVL committee as well, and that's the problem is letter of intent is due on Friday, but the actual application is not due until like June. So it might be something to look into.
Okay.
Because there are some components of the skate park project that would benefit from some of the things that the grant that we could be eligible.
Is eligible to apply.
So
okay.
I can send that.
Would
to
you email
tomorrow.
that to me? That's
Yeah.
great.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
So I'm really excited about it. It's finally, and again, we'll follow up with a community meeting, like that would be our third meeting, and get that back into play. And really looking forward to bringing it to council. Great, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, meeting of March 26th. There is, of course, for those of you all of you know that the casino Saboba has opened a soft opening, and their grand opening is March 26th. This is a huge event. There will be dignitaries from all over the state coming, and we, of course, as a council, have been invited. And it's a huge itinerary. It starts at 3 o'clock and goes until like 9 o'clock, and it's not just a matter of it would play the way the itinerary goes. We, of course, have a proclamation for them, as many will. But this is a huge event for the Valley, and so we're asking council if they'd be amenable to reschedule the council meeting either the day after, make it on a Wednesday, the Wednesday after, if your schedules work. I don't think we can go without a meeting, but we just need to reschedule that one if everybody's available.
I will be out of town the whole following week after that, so I'm not available, but you can have a quorum.
So are you available on the Wednesday after? Are you available on the 27th? Okay. I know that's your HOA meeting.
Yeah, but that's normally finished by 4 o'clock, so
Okay.
theoretically,
I think
yeah.
there's a consensus that we're all available on the 27th to reschedule.
Maybe we don't have a work study that day, 'cause yeah, if we could
Yeah.
do it at 7.
Yeah. So,
Does that work for staff?
does that work for staff?
You guys see some looks out there.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, everybody, because this is a really huge event that it would be horrible if we couldn't attend. So, on a number of levels. So that ad hoc committee reports, Florida Avenue, the medium issue. I heard you mention the other day that there's a meeting scheduled, or you are scheduling one?
I'm going to read you a very short letter. In December, the council directed me to write a letter to the California Transportation Commission at the request of then Mayor Percival, requesting to meet with them to discuss a relinquishment of the highway to the city of Emmett. So I received this correspondence yesterday, and it's from Chris Trena, who's the chief engineer for the California Transportation Commission. Mr. Parker, thank you for your correspondence to Executive Director Branson dated December 19th and our subsequent communications regarding your concerns with the relinquishment of State Route 74 to the city of Emmett. The California Department of Transportation, Caltrans, thank you, is responsible for the relinquishment of state routes. I have discussed your concerns with Ms. Janice Benton, the new District 8 Director, and asked her to meet with you to discuss the issues identified in your correspondence. So we're going to go back to District 8. I'm going to just talk specifically about relinquishment.
Okay. So,
the meeting hasn't been set up yet. I just got the letter yesterday.
okay. CDBG ad hoc committee?
Well, we've met and we've made recommendations, and Tiffany was the staff representative to that. She had hoped to have this on tonight's agenda, but there was a little hiccup. Apparently, she was contacted by a representative from CASA, who was one of the designees for funds, and there's a problem that their former executive director has been charged by the DA's office, and there's a question about some funding that was CDBG funding that came from us for some laptop computers that are nowhere to be found, or tablets, I guess. So she's reached out to our HUD rep and is seeking a course of action and waiting for an answer on how to deal with this hiccup. So I expect that we'll have something for next month. But
Great.
Murphy's alive and well in every endeavor.
On the budget ad hoc committee, thank you for that report. On the budget ad hoc committee, we met yesterday with staff and public safety. And we'll continue to do that as necessary with the departments and hopefully move this process along. City Manager, any other report you have? Okay. And you kind of talked about the Caltrans issue. And so, with that, we'll conclude this meeting and adjourn to March 12th. What did I forget?
Nothing. I just want to say that tomorrow is Councilmember Percival's birthday, and you probably didn't want to.
Is it a significant one?
Everyone is significant. Hey, yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. And happy birthday, Michael. Happy birthday, Michael. 49 one more time? No. Well, we hope you celebrate.
I went on a cruise this past week.
There you go. Okay. So with that, we are adjourned.